Wednesday, February 20th, call the regular board of directors meeting of the Wareham Housing Authority and Ridley Park to order. Please silence your electronic things. And we'll stand for the pledge of allegiance. The flag is behind us. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Don Barat.
Is here. Gene
Canard
is here.
Bill Lockwood.
Bill Lockwood is here. Bob Powell is here, along with Jackie Hickey and Mr. Bob White from cable television. There are no residents, so we don't have any residents. Start with old business, review and approve the regular minutes of January 30th, 2019.
Yeah. So Jackie, when did Redwood Park Village move to 57 Sandwich Road?
I know.
I
saw that.
I went there, because I only looked at the 57 Sandwich Road.
Yeah,
I said, oh, it's gotta be at
yeah,
my own, I didn't look at the whole thing.
yeah. After it was all put out, I'm like, oh. I'm sorry.
We'll change that. That's the first change. Okay.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the minutes, January 30th, 2019.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Gene Martin, seconded by Bill Lockwood. Any further discussion? Except for the change in the address.
That's on the agenda.
Oh, that's
So
right,
that's
yeah,
all.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't here.
201. Okay.
Who didn't vote?
I didn't, I wasn't
She
here.
was abstained.
She
3-0, abstained.
No, 3.
No, I
He
didn't.
did say
No,
2. He
no.
meant 3.
Okay, he meant
Oh,
three.
Yes.
301.
It said
3 is the
201.
new 2.
Yeah, I
Something
didn't count
three.
myself, I just looked at you.
Should be 3.
I counted you 3, not me. You gotta, I'm hitting 76.
Well, you'd be prime age to run for president then.
No, I don't know, I'm worse off than they are. I don't know how they can do it. Anyhow, so, next order of business is authorization to sign checks and documentation that have adequate supporting documentation. It's, that document's being passed around, right?
Yes.
We'll do them after
Yeah.
the meeting, all right, so. Next order of business is the administrators, huh?
Take a vote.
Oh, take a vote on item B, signing and
So moved.
documentation.
Second.
Motion by Bill Lockwood, seconded by Gene Canard. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
4-0-0.
Well done.
Okay. Next, new business administrators report attached.
Okay, 104 units. Thank you. Vacancies carried forward 1. We had someone leave Redwood, 2 vacancies. Unit 46, we had somebody reject, come the day they were supposed to sign the lease and reject the unit. Then I offered it to the next person. He took it initially and rejected the unit again because he is 86 and where it's located and where he had to park his car was probably, he said it was a little bit too much for him. A wonderful gentleman too, I'm so sad. And then, so I do believe this third person, I have to give them 7 days to accept it. So that runs out on Monday. I do believe he's going to take it, but I still am not sure. F14 is vacant February 1st and March 2nd, and it's going to be ready for occupancy. Actually, the 25th is ready for occupancy, and they will be moving in March 2nd.
So you have one at the egg room and one here?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. We have 689 applicants. And work orders, we had 3 at the beginning of the month, and then 34 during the month, 7 outstanding with the 1 turning, because they're done with 46.
Yeah.
It just has 14, but that will be done by Friday. Then special projects in DHCD, as I emailed everyone, the meeting with Mass Narrow and lawyer for information session on the ED guidelines with DHCD. After reading it, I felt like it was written for us, specifically concerning the position, but there is a majority of the smaller housing authorities in the same boat. And as you read, you can tell their position was they felt that the DHCD had overstepped their boundaries based on the law as it is written. The 5-member board makes the contract with the executive director or the employment agreement, as there are some that have employment agreements, that they have kind of come in and we don't know what they want, so, and they haven't talked. So there is a lawyer from Copeland and Page that they've hired to help Mass Narrow navigate through this, and I feel like we could be helped by their open session next February 27th. March 7th is the legislative day at the State House for local housing authorities. I didn't know if anybody wanted to come. It's a day where we go up and, it's kind of good to see everybody, who the people that are on the Joint Housing Committee, Kevin Honan and others. They generally have the Undersecretary speak as well. I'm not so sure this year with this heat, so, but they will have somebody, a legislature or Senate, somebody speaking. I think, sometimes they have an agenda, but it doesn't, when you get there, it's changed. So, but I think it's important that we go to that. We'll be completing the interviews for the clerk office assistant tomorrow. And I think it's important that we schedule our subcommittee meetings. So I can email everybody, if you so wish, to set those appointments up and get our subcommittees back in and do that oversight.
What are the subcommittees?
There's
Internal-
budget,
finance, and cash management.
Yep.
Who's
Internal compliance.
Internal audit and compliance.
Yep.
Tenant relations.
Infrastructure. But
Infrastructure and human resources, right? Capital plan, capital and human infrastructure.
Capital
Do
planning.
you know who's on what? Who's on first?
I did not bring the list, but I
think
will,
Donna and I are on audit and compliance.
so maybe we will.
I was on something, a couple with Eleanor.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do that in April.
Look them up.
Infrastructure, that's all I know about.
Yeah.
You're on infrastructure.
Infrastructure. I was on infrastructure review too, I don't know if I still am.
Yeah.
Okay, I will send everybody the list,
All right.
and then I'll put some preliminary dates out there, and you just let me know if it works. If not, we'll figure something else out. And for that is just the administration report. One other thing, we're pretty much completed, completely up and running in the administrative offices over in Ag 1. So other than that, we're waiting to, that's just for the administrative report.
How about,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I had I think it was last month, we had 163 resident applications. Now we have, they must have upped the figure somehow. 296 or?
I think it was 26, it was 200 and something.
Okay.
I know it jumped up about 35, yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
just checking.
Anyway, last month, Donna, you weren't here when we had the fee accountant came in and went over
Okay,
FY June of
Yeah.
2019 budget and pointed out, explained all the revenue and expense portions and
Yeah.
projected deficit
We do have that.
in,
We have the budget.
so then we voted on it. And I don't know, and we all had to sign it. I don't, did you get?
No, I have them right here,
Oh,
though.
good,
I do have them for you.
good. So
Okay.
when you sign it, then we can,
Yep.
Jackie can get them into Boston, either by
Okay.
certified mail or whatever, or make a copy.
We actually upload it onto the state's website and they sends it directly
Okay,
to
and
them.
if it,
It goes
he's-
submitted
he said,
to make sure I,
make a copy of
Copy
what
of
you do, so if
page.
it doesn't, if it
Yeah.
bounces.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you can see, we have a projected deficit of $5,400 for the fiscal year ending June. Is that right, 2019?
no, it's the, right now,
Yeah.
without the operating subsidy.
Projected deficit.
Right now,
Yeah,
that's where we
yeah.
are with the deficit, yes.
And I think it this talks, does it talk about in here subsidy? As a,
Yes, right here, subsidy is, right there where, see, this is where what we should be getting in
Okay.
subsidy. And this is what quarterly number reflects that.
so that 5369 deficit would,
The difference between
It's
17,000 and that number.
it's expecting a subsidy of 19,849, so we haven't been getting it, so if we don't, we'll be in a hole like 25,000.
Can I just make one quick,
Go ahead.
before we go move on? Under the extraordinary line item, which is 6510, that number, 23,306, we're expecting
What
a
number is that?
6510.
I don't have
60.
Yeah, I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry,
You don't
the
have
number
this?
on the very, does everybody have this budget right here?
For some reason,
I don't have
it.
65.
I
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah, 6510 is at the very bottom,
On the left-hand
left-hand.
side.
Oh, yeah,
column.
okay, I got it.
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay.
I'm talking dollars, she's talking account numbers.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not in numerical order, that's what threw me off.
Okay,
So 6510 represents the extraordinary maintenance line item.
yeah,
And that is reflective of two numbers that are not present, that will be in next quarter, is a $4,900 rebate back from the state for boilers that we had to
Okay.
purchase,
yeah,
along with a $10,000 CPC reimbursement as well. Because so then that brings that
under budget.
$6,000, yeah, over, under budget.
I have a question. I've never seen, I don't know, has it always been this way? Generally, when I see a negative number, I think that we're under budget, but we're over budget with all the negative numbers.
Well,
I'm not,
right,
why is,
because this is how, it's a very odd metric. This whole bottom thing,
Yeah.
what the state says is any extraordinary maintenance items you do comes directly from your reserve.
yeah,
It does not come from the budget, even though that is not, I just don't understand it myself, but that is their metric.
But
So
Your
you
budget
see,
for, I think she's talking about two different things.
Oh, okay.
But to follow up on what she's saying, the budget for ordinary stuff,
yeah.
and then the extraordinary gets taken care of down here.
Yeah, but it still comes up, in other words, in my budget, okay, I'll just put one out here, okay? It says that the current budget for, total general was 33,000. So we spent 36,177, so we're 3,177 over budget. But this makes it look like we're under budget, the 3,177.
3,000.
Yeah, so the budget is 66. In the
Yeah.
current budget, this is on a 6-month basis, see up on the top?
Yeah, but you're still,
Yeah.
then how can you match current to current actuals? How can you be, it just doesn't,
What she's saying is, after 6 months, you got half your budget left. So that's 60, where were you looking, 66?
She's looking at 4,500,
4,500, so the
all the way
budget for
over.
that group of accounts, maintenance, was 66,
yeah,
33 and 33.
yeah.
So for the first 6 months, we spent 36,177, which puts us
Over budget.
31,77 over.
But it says,
No, what,
it says negative.
right.
Yeah,
Here-
negative.
And that
It puts us in
actually
the hole.
represents, it says total
That doesn't
general.
make any sense, does it?
Well, it's, I think,
I get it.
I've never seen a financial that shows if you're over, it shows you're negative, and I'm just asking if that's just the way they do their budget, and you guys do your budget, because I'm just, I don't know, I've never noticed that before.
Meaning over, you spent more than you were budgeted for, so
Yeah.
then you overspent and you're in a negative situation.
that also just,
Because
that
that'll
number,
go, and that results, that's how the deficit gets built up, because you're spending beyond your means.
But in the real world, they don't do it that way. You're over budget, it doesn't say show or negative, you know that, I mean, you know, if you say you're gonna spend $50,000 on tools and you spend 66,000, you're gonna be 16,000 over. It wouldn't say 16,000 negative. And that's just.
Over
Yeah,
means you're in
yeah.
the hole, you spent more than you had.
right,
So
Oh,
but,
I know that.
Yeah, right,
That's
but-
negative,
yeah, yeah.
so that's, I don't know, this is the way they do it.
but just so you understand that number,
That's my question.
Because if you put a
Right.
plus, it would give you the perception that you're making money, you're in a surplus.
right,
That's what usually,
It wouldn't to me, but maybe that's the way the state does things.
it's the way everybody does it. You put a bracket if it's negative or a minus, or you
I
Put a red.
understand what you're saying.
You know what I'm
Red.
saying.
Yeah, I do,
Please.
because I've worked in the
I
private
understand,
industry.
I understand what you're saying, but
Yeah,
You've been in the
That-
state
I
too long.
understand it
that
both ways.
particular
I've been
total,
everywhere.
right, just so we know, that general, that 4,500 is only reflective of insurance and employee benefits. So that's why, when you look at the insurance line item, and this is where quarterly, when we pay something, that's reflective of a big chunk of the workman's comp that we paid at the beginning, reflective of the whole entire 12 months.
The
So-
first 6 months.
Right, so you can see where he budgeted 10,350 and it was 15,780 because we pay the complete liability and maybe,
Instead
and
of
I should have said
prorating
this, instead of, I put the $11,000 in instead of allocating, $800-900 for each month of only putting 5,400 in because then it would have been a proper reflection of the insurance. So,
But we actually paid 15,780
We
in the
actually
6
paid.
months, so therefore you.
This is a cash analysis, not an accrual
Yeah,
analysis.
right,
Yes.
not accrual, yeah.
Thank you, yes, I did that, so
Yeah, so
I,
that's what he's stuck with, it's a cash basis system.
Don't get to say that
Yeah.
stuff very often.
so that's where it looks like it's over, and then the positive numbers are the numbers that we have left over, because you
Yeah,
see,
no,
I understand how you feel.
No,
Except for the variance in the, which, this is why it causes confusion, because they use the same thing, they use the opposite. The negative number in the operating receipts is what is below what he projected 244, and it was 244.2, and it's 243.5.
Yeah,
So I can see where
it just,
Right.
they're not consistent. I mean, it's just the way I've always
So if you,
done business.
if you look through the package that we had presented to us, it was this plus the operating reserve calculation and the signature
It's
certification.
in here, right?
it's
you
it's
got
all in
that?
there, you'll
Oh,
have a
okay.
copy of it in there.
Oh, okay, yeah, very good.
And that is the administrative report, unless anybody has any questions on the budgeting.
So I was gonna
Yeah.
say, so you'll, after Donna signs it, you'll get this off to Boston.
So it looks like everybody in the arrearage is on a payment agreement.
Yep.
And is the last person,
We have one more court date to have to go to, but we are gonna get a $200 a month repayment amount from this particular family
good,
to get it down. Yep, everybody's paying,
okay.
Okay, so you're gonna go to infrastructure now?
yes.
The person that wasn't paying at all is paying
Is
now?
paying, yep.
Is that the one you're gonna quote with for the agreement?
Yeah, the bottom line, the
Okay.
bottom family,
Alright,
yep,
okay.
we got one, March 4th, we go,
Okay.
and then, but it's only because, the family ended up, working, somebody got a job,
Mhm.
so they, that had to be included in the court, made
Yeah.
us do a certain period of time to average
And
out.
all these agreements are in writing?
All of them are in writing,
So we just have to, if they don't live up to them, we just,
we evict them.
well, yeah, but you have to start from the beginning of evicting them, or do you have a,
Only a few of them are court ordered,
Okay.
the others we would go, but the smaller ones, you know,
The court order ones are the biggies?
yes.
Okay, good. That's all I want to know.
So if you recall, there was a time when this was a longer sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, absolutely, I like to see the agreements, and I like to
Yeah.
see people living up to them, I think
Yeah.
that's good,
And if
because,
it wasn't for 3, you'd be down to 3 make up 6,400 of it all.
Yeah, I mean, people are coming in now
6,100.
that are paying higher rents, so that's really, I mean, that's indicative of many things, but,
Yeah.
you know, it's like they are 2 months behind, it's a huge amount, as opposed to
Yep.
somebody that only has a $250 and has $2,000 in
yeah,
arrears.
because you get somebody here that paid $1,065 for rent.
Yep.
That's,
And that's not our highest either,
But
no,
he owes,
no, no,
he owes 2 months.
right, he owes 2 months and he was,
Okay.
that's put us behind
All
us,
right, so,
yeah.
well, very good job on that, I always
Thank
think
you
of
very
that.
much,
Oh,
you do,
you're welcome.
you keep me on my toes, which is good. And
yeah,
that
so
concludes,
when the audit committee, if the audit committee come in, you can look at those repayment agreements
Yeah.
in the office. And all right, so now your infrastructure.
Motion to accept the administrator's report.
Second,
We didn't do did you do the rest of this?
no, we're gonna do infrastructure second.
Now she's gonna do infrastructure.
well,
Yeah, we're gonna
That was the
do,
administrative part, not the
I know, but like
straight
we
over.
do separate vote for it,
yes,
Huh?
yeah,
we do vote for it separately. We do the administration first and then the
I
infrastructure
thought we
second.
voted on the whole administrator's report
No,
at the end.
well, we actually separated out.
Okay,
Second, Jean Cannon, or
I second.
Donna Bronk, okay.
motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Okay, so, still have the motherboard issue with Agawam Village. It is obsolete, they said they were trying. I've called them, not received a call back, and I've decided that we need to actually move on. We need this problem solved. So we either need an answer, and so we've called somebody, they're gonna come and give us a quote, and we're gonna reach out to a couple others to see if we can get a quote to get it fixed. Unfortunately, the particular company we've been using has gone through a lot of transformation, and just honestly think we just need to get the problem solved.
so it's not, okay, so we have a problem with the current motherboard, and we've been waiting to work
Right.
with the company, and the company is unable to work with us,
Well,
is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Been
Okay.
I've given them enough time, and we need to have this problem resolved, even though, you know, they were able to bypass the motherboard, so the system is completely operational.
Oh, okay.
There's
well, yeah, all right.
no issues, it was just bypassed. We need the motherboard because it helps us determine where sensors and locations and things, if there is trouble, it's easily detectable with a motherboard. Without that motherboard, we just bypass it and it's trial and error. But it works to the fire. This is the one that's connected to the fire department, so.
Okay, did you send them a letter stating that, you know, if they can't resolve the situation within a certain period of time, we've got to move on?
I will send them a letter. I called them, I didn't say that, but I was
I just
gonna do.
put it in writing,
Yep.
just to see a way,
Yeah.
see why they were.
Yep. On 1/4/2018, we did have DHED come in again. The pitch in this is related to the shower in C13. We are ADA compliant. They just felt that the shower pitch to the drain could be a little bit better, waiting for the contractor. ARCAT is involved with this particular job. So they have not heard back from the contractor, and I did receive a call. That's a separate issue. Again, we will be working on that to get this finished so we can move on.
But
An
are we
independent-
compliant? Are
We are
compliant?
completely compliant with the
So why do
ADA.
we have to,
Because the drain, what happens is, the drain, it just doesn't drain
It's not
properly.
draining.
And the water pools there, and I
Okay.
just feel that
Okay.
that's a problem waiting to happen. But that is not, doesn't take away from the ADA compliance or the
Okay.
MAA being worked.
It's something that's not slamming the runway or something.
Complying with ADA, just not gravity.
Yeah, exactly, just not gravity. And I wish it was, but it isn't.
Is it
Um,
the slope and the drain, is it?
That's what it
Or the
is.
hole is too small?
No, the hole's perfect. Actually, the hole's a good, I mean, it just gets to the lip of the hole.
And then it lifts.
Well, it just doesn't, it's not enough slope in order to go right into the drain. So the water pools around and it sits a little bit too much.
So it can be slippery.
Yes, and for somebody in a wheelchair, so, you know, the other portion of this is a woman from Independent Living called and she has made recommendations and I told her, you know, I had seeked out at one time, quotes to do automatic doors, especially for the wheelchair units, to get in and out of the doors. It's a lot easier. We do need to address this. We are compliant, and they understand we're compliant because we meet the 5% goal as far as offering compliant units. Grandfather claused in with the automatic door openings because they were there. They haven't always been in that building. So the building was been compliant with ADA at the time when the building was built. But it is something that I get it and I understand and we will work towards it, you know, to be able to, and I told her as soon as our budget allows.
Yeah, it's hard to open the door
It is hard to open
when
the
you're
door.
trying to wheel
Right.
yourself. Yeah. How many units would need that?
But, 4 units, 4 doors, because there's,
When you have to put them on the community room?
we do have them on this community room.
You have them down in Egg One?
I don't know,
On
we
the
do not
office?
have to have them at Ag One. I asked, something about the way that ramp was built and that grandfather claused in. I'm not sure this has a opening one either, but it stays open.
Yeah,
a
where
little bit
open to
different.
the public, though, we probably
Right.
should include it.
We probably should include it.
What we do need on that door is a lever.
Exactly, yep, we do.
No reason not to have that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's, yeah. There is no reason, we will put one on. I just gotta write it down so I can put it in a work order. Okay. Again, CPC at the request of the selectmen, we were to go to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, but due to a confusion in the CP committee's vote, they informed the Wareham Housing Authority that they did not inform us in writing, but they did say to me they would put the warrant article on the special Springtown meeting. I do not know if it was voted as such. I did not look at the,
It's, probably won't be voted, I checked today. The last date, I think, to submit is March 14th, and I
Oh,
think
okay.
around that, whatever that selectmen meeting is when they'll do the vote.
For the
as I
special-
understood it.
Okay,
Right. I went to the meeting where they discussed this. They dealt with other CPC articles, and this one here, because of the confusion on the, what part was the confusion on?
The
the
units.
vote.
No,
vote.
on the revisions that CPC made based on our meeting, they hadn't voted on it before the selectmen's meeting.
Right.
So they couldn't technically submit it, because then the selectmen couldn't deal with it because it didn't officially come to them as a voted article, even though the article was the same as we submitted, but it was smaller, it had all the same, but they just eliminated the description part on the article. So they said they didn't vote on anything, they just left it until the special town meeting articles come up, and then they'll quote.
CPC voted on it
The
the
next
day
night,
after.
the next night,
After the
right,
meeting, that's why they couldn't vote on it,
Right.
we did. yeah.
right. Theoretically. But then they said at that meeting that they would take it up when they take up the special town meetings. I didn't read that as they would put it on the special town meeting. They're gonna discuss it then, vote
So,
I thought that was what I heard.
on it, you know. You could, depending on how you listen, you can read it both ways, you know.
To be continued.
No doubt.
But anyway, in that regard, there's, I don't know if you got this here. Peter Teitelbaum asked me to go talk to Ken Buckland about this Swift's Beach project.
No, we don't have a copy
We
of
don't
that.
have-
You don't
Yeah,
have this?
I don't have that either.
So maybe we
Where'd
can
this
get
come
it.
from?
I don't
Oh,
know.
this is the one I picked up from him. So anyway, so Ken Buckland, I went into him and I told him, Peter told me to come and see, and he says, oh yeah, so good. So here he's sitting there and he says, and it was about Swift's Beach.
Mhm.
And he says, we got, the redevelopment authority now owns this piece of property. I don't know whether the town gave it to them or they,
He did, they took a vote at one of them.
yeah, somehow or another, they went from the town to the
No,
redevelopment.
I thought I saw them vote on it, no?
So they are in the process of what they said was they were gonna look for a developer. So you can scan this as you look it around, and I'll just explain what he said. He said they're looking for a developer. They can put up a number of units, they would like a number of units. This is just one draft they had. We can reconfigure the lot any way you want for the number of units. And they were looking for a developer, and then thinking that the developer would put up the units, and then somebody would manage it for them. And theoretically, was inferred that it would be us.
Which I think makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
so me too.
I mean, that's what our business
Yeah.
is.
So what I suggested, and they didn't consider, was how about whenever the CPC has money in their housing bucket, they give us funds for us to put units in there on a phased-in basis, 4 here, 6 there, whatever at a time, depending on the money. And they'd deed the property over to the housing authority. We'd not put it all up at once, but we could put it up in units of 4, all elderly or elderly, and some veterans housing or whatever.
It's already been, property apparently has already been subdivided into 43 remaining lots.
Yeah,
Which would give it
separate lots?
it was subdivided as 47 lots, of which 4 I believe, have been sold off, which would leave in theory
13,
43 lots.
23.
Which could, in theory, have, they do some different math here.
Yeah, but if it goes to a developer, is he bound to, are they still lots, or is it one subdivision
Depends on how
parcel?
it's- Well, they may have been combined by zone,
Yeah,
by statute anyway, since they've been in common ownership since whenever.
yeah,
And I doubt if they were put into separate ownership, so
yeah.
they probably.
What he was implying is that it can be figured or contoured anyway, depending
I
on
would say that
the number of units that you were gonna put in, because I was saying we'd be putting in 500 square foot units. Those are like 1,200, I think.
I don't think 500 wouldn't be quite big enough, I don't think.
If I can, not, I don't think so, not.
But
The
I
town
think-
owns the
Now-
property.
I think the ones we're proposing are,
We were talking about duplexes, and that's
Yeah,
what I
they're
was
not-
saying to
They're
him.
not more than 650.
yeah,
I
but
think
they aren't
650,
500 either.
Yeah, they're not 500, they're like around 650.
What, those there?
Those, the new
Yeah.
ones, yeah. No, I don't know about, I have no idea what
Yeah,
they're
what those,
proposing.
I thought I saw something like 1,200, maybe I was wrong.
I'm just talking about our CPC article.
Oh, yeah,
I
That was-
Just
thought-
by way of comparison.
yeah.
So we should,
I don't know.
Down on the bottom where there were numbers, I thought it said 1,200 square foot.
I'm suspecting it's this chunk there.
for some reason, something I heard that there were 13 lots. So one of the meetings I went to. And the
Yeah,
rest
but
had
this
been
property
something
isn't
that
broken
was the
down
rest
into
of
lots, is it?
By lots, I
No,
don't know how
it's-
large.
That was actually originally
It
the home, a
seems-
single family home.
But I was,
Okay,
if we
so
were
now
to-
would be revised.
we were to build on
I'm
that.
sure that, yeah. So
You'd
can I
probably
go back to
get
scan
2
and
months.
decide that,
Yeah.
right?
But he
I
says,
don't
don't, I says, can I take
This
this?
doesn't really
He
give
says,
us a
"Yeah, but
lot of
don't- You don't have to
information.
go by that, if you get the property.
This, I mean, there's
Okay, so they can move them
Like you're doing
forward.
here.
Okay, all right.
that little bit there is this weight here.
Okay.
But you don't see 1,200 anywhere?
43 lot lines in there, and then.
Yeah, because there's 5 options there.
Sold
Okay,
off.
so probably
There's 5 options there.
Is the 47, which would be
45 units, 53, 37, and all this other stuff, depending on how you configure it, you know.
still, it's only 13 acres.
Yeah, we don't really know what they,
So
yeah, you wanna introduce
probably
them?
wouldn't be delighted to see that.
Let me just finish the infrastructure, and
Oh, yeah,
then you can introduce them.
Oh, yeah, I will, yeah.
But
But I
then
always
what
thought
about
we
this
did
before?
the whole thing.
Well,
We
it
always voted
Option
separately.
two should tell us what
Approve
it's.
the administrator's
Mhm.
report.
Yeah, because there's administration and then there's infrastructure, and
Which I
maybe I
guess
should
is
just
that
start
they're
doing them
interested in
separately.
energy,
But we used
But you know,
to,
I did not put,
which makes sense.
They're interested
I
in-
did not put this on the agenda.
A what?
well, that's all right. I'll just say.
I would think that would be the way to go, my
And then
personal.
we can
Oh, to
discuss
develop
it.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
We don't want
Maybe
to, you
Can I
know,
when you get back,
sure.
we can discuss it.
All right, yeah.
I think it'd be good, we could manage it and make recommendations for it, but I think the developer should, they should go, the redevelopment authority, I would think, would do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
I don't know if they,
But they might put it out for development bids, but
if they own a managed property. I think that's what they're thinking. My impression was they're gonna look for a developer to do it, and then we would manage it for the
Manage it.
developer.
Yeah,
Oh, and then I suggested, well, how about if you just deed it to us for $1, and then over the period of years, we put up 4 units, 6 units, like we want to do with Agamon. But I don't know what, that's what he and I talked about, and he said he thought it was a good idea, and he's gonna bring it to whoever he brings it to. We'll find out.
Can you repeat again about the credits? If a developer comes in, I always,
tax credits?
how does that work? That entices the developer to come in and build.
Oh, absolutely.
But somebody, are they, those tax credits, they just come in and build it because they want the tax, it seems like a simplistic thing that they meant say, well, they get the tax credit, so they'll come in and build it.
Oh,
But it seems like
They-
that's too simplistic.
by getting the tax credit, they can charge a lot more money for rents too. But there's all sorts of hoops they have to jump through to get those tax credits.
Okay,
Okay, and developers today, that's the only way that they can make money, is by going through the tax credit program, because all the other loans have kind of pretty much evaporated.
Yeah.
So this is the only thing that they're really offering right now is tax credits to a developer
Right.
that would entice a developer. Because frankly, you know, I worked for a developer for years, and frankly, if you don't have a large amount of units, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for these. You know, you're definitely gonna be limited to the quality of developers you get.
Say that again, if you don't have a lot of
If
units,
you don't have a lot of units that you're offering, for instance, look at that new place down Red Brook Road. It's not gonna work with such and such amount of units. We need this amount of units to work. Developers generally, you know, they know how many units they're gonna have in order to make it financially feasible.
so there's a threshold, you need over 100, or you need
there
over,
is a threshold, but you'll hear the same argument no matter what the number.
What's the same argument?
That we need more.
Oh, we need more. Yeah,
We need more units in order
Yeah.
to make it work.
the more they can squeeze in, the better for them.
Well, yeah, and like I said, the tax credit program is the only thing really that's gonna entice developers to do something like this.
What about this mass housing finance agency that floats their own
MHFA?
bonds? Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
but they offer tax credit programs too. Now, I mean, Mass Housing doesn't have like the 236 subsidy and the different subsidies they used to have before. They're just not available for building.
where do they come from? Federal, state, what are these credits?
Both.
A lot of them were pass-through programs from
Yeah.
offense to the
And you know,
State,
the other thing is it's getting difficult because a lot of people, a lot of owners are opting out. They're 20 years or over.
A lot of
And
owners?
some of them have signed in for 40 years, you know, to 20 years. They're opting out and going private, especially in the city.
Yeah,
So,
they are.
huh?
Yeah, they are. I do know that.
they had when they took the money, they were committed to keeping them
Affordable to.
affordable for 20 years.
Yeah.
After that,
In the state, it's wisdom, thought 20 years was a long time.
then after the 20 years is up, they can,
They can opt,
They can say, thanks,
yep,
and
a
we're
lot of
going
them-
to free market.
a lot of them have. A
Yeah.
lot of,
but
a
in the
lot of
meantime, they're
development.
gonna have to do a lot of refurbishing and renovating and repairs and all that, or were they doing that along the way?
They were doing that along the
On the
way.
way,
With whose money?
with
With their money and some
Which is,
state.
in the state and the federal government, they were doing it. They were keeping their property up, maintaining their property, getting maximum rents, and then they said, okay, goodbye, now I can get the private sector, and I can get a lot more.
So what do they do with the residents in there if it's a mix of affordable and?
Well, that's generally something that the town, the local city or town works out through with the program.
That's what's happening with the Mary Ellen McCormick Center right now.
And so
They are going to
Yep.
private, and they are
Exactly.
going to do a 40B type thing, where 25%.
Yeah, but that
They'll
was,
take all the vouchers. They transferred everybody over to they gave everybody those
so what are they
vouchers.
selling it? How do they do that? This was federally
Yep.
funded housing
If
authority
they-
It's
project.
still privately owned,
It's privately owned,
privately owned.
You mean by the housing authority, Boston
No.
Housing
No, by a
Authority?
private developer.
private developer.
It
They
wasn't-
sold it to a private
Probably several
ABC
developers,
LLC, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, but how did that happen?
community builders, because they
Wait a
created
minute,
these
wait a minute. There's
organizations.
the Boston Housing Authority. They own all these projects all over the city.
But they're not.
Brookline,
Yes.
you
They
know,
might write-
Yeah.
South End,
They might write checks.
Roxbury, all over the state,
Yep.
city. So then, they're a public entity like we are.
They
So
are.
how do we,
And they write checks to ABC LLC, just like we write checks to
Checks to-
ABC LLC.
That's right.
who, oh, those are leased units, those are,
Ma-
those are.
Well, they weren't,
Voucher units or whatever.
right, they
State
changed their state. It was a federal, it was state, first it was state, then they went in, when they converted state to federal, Mary Ellen McCormick went to the federal, and now they're privatizing federal developments. So it will be run by a private company. And there's still some ownership by Boston Housing Authority there, but a minimum.
Yep.
And only to keep that law,
Very small percentage.
very small percentage.
5%.
And so they want that real estate, because it's right down there
So
on the
this had to
water,
be all done
in the last 5
in
years.
the last 10 years, because originally there was Boston Housing Authority,
Right.
Abington, Brookline, Cambridge, they owned those properties.
No. The Cambridge Housing Authority has tons of units in the city.
No, but I'm talking in the
that they
original,
don't
I'm
own.
talking in the
right.
40s when they built them. It was built with state and federal money,
Yeah,
and the authority owned them and operated.
yes, but now that,
It wasn't private, there was no private money.
Well, I wasn't here in the 40s.
Well,
so
I
can't
was.
tell.
I was around in the 60s when they were doing it. It was all state and federal money.
Well, I'm,
There was before MHFA, there was before any of that.
yeah, well,
Then they came into the picture with competitive, and the private developers were borrowing money from them by bonds they were selling as a state, as a private entity, as a public entity, they were able to sell bonds.
Yep.
These places were sold with state bonds, and the rents paid off the bonds, and now they're all paid for. So, the way it stands now, there's no way we can privatize this place, sell it to somebody, unless we got some kind of legislation, unless the legislation that we
no.
currently operate on allows us to do
well,
it.
and the same with, every housing authority owns their own too,
Right,
or built their own,
Yeah.
okay? But I'm saying that these large cities have tons of units in the private sector.
well, what I'm saying is Boston Housing had Columbia Point, they had
And
They
well, look
had-
what happened to that.
They had Rockwell. They knocked it down, and they got federal money to knock it down, but it was federal because it was too congested. So they knocked it down and scattered it. That was with HUD money, and then Cochran, Runnels, and Jennison came in
Developed.
and developed it. But all of that was federal or state housing owned by them.
Oh, I know.
Nobody else. Then along the way, these laws changed, and HUD wanted to get rid of them. The state wanted to get rid of them, let them become federal, and then the federal is allowing
Well,
them to sell
I
them
couldn't
off.
manage them. They couldn't take care of their own units, and you know, that's why MHFA came in. So,
Yeah.
so much for the ancient history, Dave.
Yeah,
Here we
but
are.
BHA was owned them and managing them
Yeah,
on their
I know.
own.
Now
They
they're,
didn't do a very good job, did they?
well,
Well, they think they did.
all right.
They all didn't go to jail. There were some that did. Anyway, so
So,
So they're working on this, is that correct?
they're,
This is a.
it's in the infancy stages, and there's no final solid plan, except Peter's idea was that seek a developer who would develop it. And then I threw that other thought in there that you could skip that middleman and we could build it. We couldn't do it all at once. If there was 40 units, we'd do it in phases based upon CPC funds, and there'd be no borrowing, no
And then,
debt service, because these people are gonna have debt service, and that's why they're gonna have higher rents and everything else to pay off the interest and principal. We don't have that, that's why our rents are insignificant. Anyway, but we'll see where they go with that. But,
so basically, if they're really talking to you at this point, all they're interested in you was really managing.
managing, yeah,
Not having,
ultimately, yeah.
okay.
And it doesn't sound like active management either, it sounds like.
no, it would be, I don't know, but I mean, if it
Depends on what-
recognizes the same management principles as others, it's usually like a 60-40 split, right, Donna? Yeah, so I don't know what they mean by that.
Yeah, I don't know if they've got into that level of detail either,
Right.
except for what they
I got it.
do down on Cranberry Highway. Wherever that stands, that's still up in the air, right?
Yeah, well, the towns aren't into developing, they can't, I mean, it's not
No.
what any of us do.
No.
I mean, you gotta have somebody come in and develop it.
Yeah, towns don't do that,
Yeah, you know, but you build 2 or 3 units at a time, it's gonna take 50 years, it isn't gonna.
Yeah.
You gotta get a developer to come in and do it, and then you manage it.
Okay,
Probably the first question is how many units can we build there?
yeah, depends on the layout, he said, it depends on the layout. He showed me pictures with trees and everything, it would look like a private property, not a house, not public housing. Anyhow, so, okay, go ahead. So
So
if you
the
wanna give
capital,
that back, she can make copies and.
Yeah.
can you scan it? Yep.
So I brought that here?
Yeah, you did.
I grew up looking, I said, where'd that come
That's why. Capital improvement plan, we have developed, I gave it to everyone last month.
Yeah,
I did reach out to, every tenant got a copy, as required by the new special chapter 235, the Acts of 2014. So, didn't receive any feedback from our tenants, so we do need a vote today to send off to DHCD that you have looked at it. If there are any suggestions or any comments relating to that. But obviously, right now as it stands, because of the, I'm not quite sure, with the CDBG picking up the remaining roofs, I'm kind of, so we have that, so next year during the CIP, I did not put it in this month's, and I don't have copies, but there are 2 years that carry the 3 roofs. I mean, obviously, it's 3 years down the road. We certainly can make an adjustment.
Yeah.
So I just think it would probably be prudent just to keep it in.
It can be an addendum, because what we're dealing with the DHCD is on their funded capital improvements. This is gonna be CDBG or
Right, so,
redevelopment,
no, what I'm saying
it
is
can be
in this,
separate
in the
separate.
CIP right now, there are 3 roofs
The ones that are here,
here.
that were funded last year or this year by,
No. CDBG separately, they were doing three
Okay.
roofs. And then I put an additional 3 roofs in with the thought that maybe hearing down the road that 3 others were gonna be paid by CDBG. Now I'm told all of them are gonna be in CDBG, or am I misunderstanding that?
I watched the selectmen's meeting last night, and they put in the rest of the roofs,
Okay,
whether it's 4 or 5
Right.
buildings
so,
in this new
right,
application
so in the
for
CIP,
CDBG.
so in the CIP,
Which is the state CIP.
Right, the capital improvement plan through formula funding for our
Right.
housing authority, I had put the, next year, if this comes to fruition and we are gonna get the rest of the roofs, we then can
We'll
choose
have
a
to-
different project.
Ask to reallocate that to something else.
And again, this is a moving target, the
Yeah.
projects do not have project numbers or fish
It's a
numbers, it's
PL.
just,
Plan,
it's just a plan. And
It's
we
just
can,
submitting it now. So you
Yeah.
will-
we submit it every
No,
year,
but I mean, they're just submitting it to DHC.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
Right.
So
gonna
it's a
be,
year
it's
away.
gonna be a while before it
Right.
gets approved.
right. But this
Yes.
particular one are like 3 years ahead, they're in FY
You meaning the
2023,
state one,
Okay.
they were
Yeah.
the 5 years.
2023
That
to
one
2024.
there, that's probably 2020, the one that they're going for last night. Cause this is already
Yes,
over.
yeah,
It's, they're putting it in now, but it's for future funding.
yes.
Yeah.
December of 2019,
Yeah.
where they'll get theirs, and so we have 3 already in the FY19 grant. They're looking in the FY20 grant, which will come fruition December of 2019.
So
So that's, I mean, we did, yeah, so I'm just saying, I think, Joe, it wouldn't be, it would be prudent if we just left it the way it is unless you wanna change. My
Leave it the way it
recommendation would be
is.
leave it the way it is, and then next year, during our capital improvement plan process, if this does come to fruition, then we can actually choose another project.
Yeah.
Exactly, and there's gonna be tons of projects that we're gonna need
We
to
do,
do.
we need the rest of the windows in
we
Redwood,
don't want, as long
We
as
have
we don't, as
2
long as the
buildings.
state doesn't allocate that to some other authority.
No, no, no.
This is
no.
ours.
This money specifically is for us. And I think, as we said, there was a little bit cushion, but it's not a big cushion, it's like $200 left between what was cap allocated and what the projects were. So there's $6,700, and hopefully we will be able to use that as time goes on, and we don't need it for, something else.
Off
Like
the top of your head, how much is the 5-year capital improvement plan? Is it $1 million?
Donna,
$2
by any
million?
chance, she
I
has.
had already, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, can you just tell us
Do you
what
have
the
a yeah, I can, it's
5-year rollout is?
on the cap boxes down below, does it have a total?
Well, you get cap shares, you get 2020, 13,297, 21, 29,873, 2022, 264,000.
For the roofs, yeah.
And then 223, 143, 138, and 2024, 143, 138.
It's like $586,000, right around that
Yeah.
number. And we allocated 580 in projects,
So you say that went out to 2028,
24.
24.
okay.
They do this 5-year.
Yeah, they do it 5 years. They require them.
Okay.
But I do need a vote.
Motion to accept the capital improvement plan for 2020 to 2024 5-year capitalization
So moved.
plan as granted. Moved by Donna, seconded by
Jean,
Jean. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we need a roll call on that? or just-
no, we do not need a roll call vote, no. Just acknowledgement that the board voted, what the board vote was, who made the motions.
4-0-0.
Project number 317028, which we have signed on the completion documents, sent it off. I got a call from the,
We did that at the last meeting, right?
yes,
What is that, 31702?
that was the buildings number 3 and 5 over in Agawam.
Oh, okay.
And I got a call last week from NALT claiming that we had an outstanding balance with the asbestos monitoring company. And I said, no way. We have paid a certain amount of money through NALT to this company. So I told NALT, I am going to put it in writing. We'll do this tomorrow. But I did speak to him and say, look, I need everything now. I need how you procured them. I need their payroll documents. They were only here 2 days. We've paid them $3,000 and now they're looking for another $2,300. The asbestos remediation was only $15,000. So you have $15,000 removal and $5,300 worth of monitoring. And so I said, I need to see what we paid on the last go around through you, through NALT, because that's where the bill was paid through them. But we had a lot more asbestos remediation because we tore down the walls. So there was just, a whole level in, I have not heard back from him, but,
But we signed off on the final.
Yep. he signed off on the final,
And we
saying
voted
all
on
bills
all
were
that as
paid.
being final, all,
Yeah.
everything was paid complete.
Right.
And we authorized the final payment on that contract.
Right.
So then after the fact, he's coming back and saying, whoops.
We
there's
got a
another-
bill from
another
this
bill.
company and they owe us 23. Now, I don't know if it's something that just got lost in the mail and they've paid them and they're screwed up, and maybe that will just sunset out, but right now, I just don't think that
But
something
it had
that,
something to do with the fact that CPC paid for a portion of this project.
previous to
They're trying to-
this,
And they didn't do that, pay for that work, no, so they're trying to include it as something they should get paid for.
initially, when we reached out to Nault to see what the price would be to have the whole CPC portion done with billing 3 and 5, it came to $129,000. So we knew that we could not do that, we only had funding, $70,000 worth of funding. So we, I told him, it's okay, we understand, blah, blah, blah. So I said, we're not gonna move any forward with this, but he kept all the numbers in his budget. So when he submitted his final payment to me previous to, I said, we're not paying for this, and when, this has to be adjusted, and we're not gonna pay for that. So he did an adjusted billing, but they had already put in a request for the complete amount. So he did do the adjustment, we ended up owing him a fraction of what he required. And so he knew that we had this money. I don't know if there was
He knew
anything
all
there.
along.
He knew all along that this was overbilling. We found it, we didn't pay him, we only paid him what he incurred in costs. So then to come back with this, after everything's been signed off, I just don't know if it's, I'm not passing any judgment, those are the facts. So,
Yeah, well, we'll see.
yep, we're gonna wait and see.
what it says. One thing I'd like to go on record as saying is, if the CPC money for the roofs, and we've got a budget in it and everything, I'd really like to take a look at putting those automatic doors in when needed. Put that funding.
Actually, I'm gonna try to fit it in.
Yeah,
I mean-
because it's a tough thing. For somebody
It
in a
is.
wheelchair, It's a tough thing.
It
Open
is.
doors.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, and we've old
We
buildings.
wanna make it as easy
Right.
as possible.
Right. I had reached out earlier to a company, and when they came back with a number at the time, I don't remember what it is. I just felt like unfortunately we just couldn't do it at the time.
Okay.
But,
Well, if this works out,
It is.
we'll have money from this capital improvement plan to re-
well, no, yes, absolutely, and
If
hopefully
the
earlier.
town is
I mean, we do have 3132 that I allocated to fixing, which is a desperate need. This is why it's always, we have 2 walkways up to building 1 in Agawam that really, and that's the first thing in July 1st, when the money gets released to us, that I want to get that accomplished. And if we do have any money left over, because our maintenance men are going to do it, they have experience in redoing these type of stairs, and we're getting the actual handrails, which I thought were a lot more expensive than they were, came in way under what I had thought it was gonna be. So we've got, if we have wiggle room and we can get 1 door done, and then next year maybe another door done,
Yeah.
at least it's moving in the direction of getting it accomplished. And the deferred maintenance items, 2 of them have been removed because the walkway was on there, and that's gonna be with formula funding. And there was one other item that I took off because of formula funding. But it's the, rugs and window coverings for the remaining redwood halls, finish painting the remaining redwood halls, finish the CO2 and smoke alarms, which were in the process, and then the drainage for building 2, and then shrubs and fencing in Agawam Village on the Sandwich side. And that completes my infrastructure report.
So do we have a motion on the infrastructure report?
Someone.
Motion by Bill
Second.
Lockwood, seconded by Donna Brock. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. So, did we already discuss the 2019 budget?
Yes.
We did. Okay, so I was remiss, I didn't see you walk in when you were here when we started the meeting,
So when
so
I walked in,
I wanna,
guys, I went over to 57 Sandwich Road
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
because,
It said it on the
yeah,
agenda.
but it did say Redwood Village, 57 Sandwich Road, so
Yeah.
went over there, it was 3:30, so I went back to the town hall and said, it said 57, it's Redwood Village, I said,
so we recognize you, could you state your name
My
and
name is Jim Manise, and I'm a resident, Manise.
Manise?
M-A-N-I-S-E, I'm a resident of Wareham.
Okay, so we'll
I did the same thing as you did.
put that in,
You-
I did, I went the wrong place.
Oh.
Yeah.
people present?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So don't feel bad. I just looked at the 57.
I was persistent though.
I didn't
Jim's
look.
running for selectman.
Trying to get to see who, I know most of you. I've heard your name, John, but I didn't know you was a face.
She's famous in town. So you know Donna, you know Jean Connaughton?
I knew who John was by name, but I didn't put the
CPC.
face of the person.
Yeah, she's been around,
Jean.
Finance Committee,
I
sewer,
didn't know that.
town meeting member, Bill Lockwood,
I've
been around a long time on CPC and here and many other things.
And you've been around longer.
I'm
But
around,
vacations are
around
for,
like a wheel,
vacations are for
yeah.
time to get away.
And Jackie's our administrative director,
She's the nuts and bolts.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's nuts all right.
Somebody's gotta be.
What have you done?
Wrong addresses,
Nuts with no bolts.
nuts with no bolts, wrong addresses.
How are we done?
What else is on
I
here?
think
That's
so.
it, that's the agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
But don't go to 57 Sandwich Road. Nick.
No, I won't.
Next meeting will be at Agawam.
Next
It will be at
meeting.
57 Sandwich Road,
What's
that's
what
right.
street is
Yeah.
this?
34 Church Ave.
So the next meeting will be at Agawam
Oh.
Village at Church Road.
No, it's too hot. Okay, motion adjourned.
57 Church Ave.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't know if in your packet, I think there's a copy of the administrative accomplishments for the year.
Yeah.
So look at that and we can discuss it next meeting. Thank you.
Can you just
Be
sign?
careful tomorrow.